If you like to watch Survivor, and when the show ends, you really want to talk about it with like-minded friends. It might be hard to find some, but don't you shed a tear. Check out the Purple Rock Podcast, and this is what you'll hear. John will make some dumb jokes, Andy likes to yell and curse, and if they're not available, the backup hosts are so much worse. We'll spend the whole time being jerks and telling you you're wrong. So we found a nice person to sing you our theme song. It's the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Purple Rock Podcast. I'm still not over how much I love listening to that theme song, especially when she talks about me. Hey, how do you like it when she talks about you, Mark?
I mean, she said it was not really that great, so let's try to prove her wrong in her twee little guitar.
That's right. This is motivation for you. Yeah, that maybe the backup host won't be so much work. Yes. Yeah, so for everyone, Mark is joining me on the podcast this week. Thanks for doing so.
You're welcome.
Am I supposed to be saying happy birthday? Is that a thing?
Yeah, that counts. Give it about 24 hours.
Well, it's post tomorrow, so that works out well.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
What better birthday present is there than to be listening to me talk at you? And what an episode to talk about. Since this is the first time you've been able to talk about this season, how are you feeling about the season so far? We're 4 episodes in, and what are you feeling?
I'm liking it a lot. I think it's very good in terms of the characters or the cast. Lots of variety. You're really getting to know them as people, and it's not just a bunch of game bots, so I'm really appreciating that this time. I don't know. I'm really enjoying it. I'm trying to stay out of the super in-depth comment stuff and go really clean and just watch it as a season of Survivor, and I think that's helping a lot. And the level of gameplay is even better, so I'm having fun.
Yeah, I don't think should be any... I mean, of course there's things to complain about because that's the way the only way they know how to consume things. But I think in general, yeah. So far we're getting some solid Survivor, and we'll see where it takes us from here. And I think we're coming off of an entertaining episode. Especially in one segment, which we are going to hold off for a bit. Because I wanted to start this week with basically, we'll start at the end. Because... what the hell? What I don't understand. It's been a day. I've even read, an exit interview from Chelsea, and I still don't understand how they get from no, we don't want to vote out Dean. That would be too risky. I don't want to rock the boat. To, all right, sure, Chelsea. I don't get it, Mark.
I don't think Chelsea gets it either, according to that exit interview.
And I sympathize. Nor should she get it.
I'm gonna be honest, when the episode ended, I was really on board with that move, and I was like, yes, Missy, go do it. And then as I've thought about it over the last day, I'm a little less into it. Mm-hmm. I think I'm more into it than most people, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. I really think it should have been Dean. They should have just stuck to the plan C or whatever and gone with him, because then, I don't know, there's a whole bunch of reasons why this is a bad move.
Well, and like any move, it all depends on who it's for, because yeah, as you say, for Missy or Aaron, that's a different discussion. What I don't even get is how we get from Missy and Aaron can't convince anybody but presumably themselves and Karishma, possibly, to go for a move against Dean. But somehow they do for a move against Chelsea, and that's where I don't get it. I don't get where Elizabeth and Elaine get to this decision. For Missy, it seems like, her motivation is to go against the power couple and also, to do something. But it's like, how do you go from, no, not Dean, let's just go to Karishma, to, all right, I guess it's got to be Chelsea, who's a much closer ally to us than Dean was.
I mean, I was thinking about it, and if you're the middle three, would you rather go with the group of 3 in Missy, Aaron, and Karishma, or would you rather go with the power couple who you're obviously on the outs with? And whether they were actually a showmance or not is irrelevant, but, perception is reality, and that's what people thought it was. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, I feel like it was a slight numbers game, and maybe that tilted it that way. Plus, they all think that there's a swap coming, so maybe they thought, we can be a little bit more adventurous, and I think the Russian roulette analogy was really, apt in this case. They're like, why not just take a gamble?
Yeah, and I could say, if it's a line in the sand, we're doing it and you pick, then yeah, 2 is smaller than 3. But again, they already talked them down from Dean. So it's like, if you already got them to back down from Dean, don't be like, okay, fine. It's like, no, I will not pay $100 for that. Okay, how about 150? I guess so. Like, that's how it felt like to me. It's like, no, we're not doing this huge thing. All right, fine, we'll do that other thing. Because, yeah, like, the 3 versus 2 also works for Dean. That's the thing, like, if suddenly, okay...
That's what I was going to say. Like, why not just pay the $100? Like, why do you have to go even further than that? I really, really don't understand that.
Because, yeah, I think the move is to take out Karishma. But again, if you've decided, like, if you're willing to go more... It makes no sense to me that they went for Chelsea instead of Dean, because the whole reason why they weren't going for Dean is that it didn't seem like they were going for more. And, obviously, like, there's a good argument to be made that a lot of data is missing for us to understand this move. They did not show it all. But I'll say, I don't think it's that much data. I legitimately think this was one of the last discussions they had. And I think it's one of those Survivor situations where, like, it's moving so fast that they're like... okay, and like, the people who are a little less comfortable, like Elizabeth and Elaine, just decide to go with the person who's pushing harder, being Missy. I also wonder if there's an aspect to Tom, because the original plan is to leave Tom out of the vote as well, right?
Yeah.
If they're going after Dean, they're not going to tell Tom, they're not going to tell Chelsea. Well, maybe once the target's Chelsea, now you're only not telling Chelsea and Dean. So that brings Tom in, maybe that makes Elaine a little more comfortable, makes Elizabeth a little more comfortable, and it's like, well, that's at least one less, bridge that's burning. So I guess from that respect...
He's the only person that we didn't see them talk to, so that you might have a really good point there, and that maybe he was fine with going along with it because it wasn't his buddy Dean, and it wasn't, his closer allies, so maybe he was going with it, and at that point, Elizabeth and Elaine kind of had no choice, so that could definitely be a possibility.
Yeah, that's one, if they do an end around with Tom.
I still think it was a good idea.
Yeah?
But...
Well, here, let's let you talk about why you think it's a good idea, to take out one of the power couple, I suppose.
Well, I mean, you have if there is a girls' alliance, then you're up 5-3, so you have a little bit of expendability, so that was going to be Karishma, but from Missy's perspective, if you want a free vote, I mean, I think she actually said this in the episode, that if she thinks that Karishma owes her, then that's a bonus vote, and, we've seen this happen multiple times before, especially like with the Tony strategy. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a decent move to keep her around, and then she did go for a blindside. It was a major power move. But that's where I get frustrated that you don't play a post-merge game pre-merge. And I think she's trying really hard to make big moves, but nobody's going to remember this because the swap is happening. And the only thing you're going to do is alienate both Dean and Karishma. So, I don't know. I keep going back and forth if this is a good move. I think it was a good move for Missy and Aaron, and only for Missy and Aaron.
Yeah. See, and I'm not even convinced Missy. I think it's a fine move for Aaron. I think actually it ends up working out better than the move that Aaron wanted, which was Dean. And we'll talk a bit about, Aaron and his, decision making. But like, at least like Missy wanted to do something and she got her way. So that's a bit of a positive. And like, I'm not the guy who generally will argue against people willing to assume risk in Survivor. I have a greater tolerance of it from an analyst perspective. Obviously, I've never played. It's easy to talk behind this microphone. But I still feel like just like the way she was going about it, I don't even mind kicking around the idea and kicking the tires on like getting rid of Dean. But the way she was feeling, like, it just felt like she feels like I have to do something, and to not do something here, to not go after that power couple, or to just get rid of Karishma, that's not playing Survivor. And it's like, no, I think there is value in taking out a malcontent at this stage in the game, which Karishma clearly was. Especially, for everybody maybe not named Missy. And just keeping everybody that will be left feeling good about themselves. And it's not just, punting a decision or, not wanting to play the game. I think there's value in not leaving a pissed off Chelsea and a pissed off Tom. And then in this scenario, a pissed off Dean. Getting rid of somebody who just seems pissed off in Karishma because of the impending swap, if it does or does not happen. You want everybody that you might be swapping onto a tribe with feeling good about you. And the move to get rid of either Dean or Chelsea isn't going to leave you in that way. So, from there, I don't like that idea. But I don't mind kicking around the idea of Dean. But once you can tell, like, the people that you need on board with this are not comfortable with this level of play, instead of, being all frustrated with them and questioning their, their willingness to play Survivor, maybe just dial it back and be like, okay, fine. Yeah, you can try, but I don't like the way she pushed for it, because I'm worried about the way that's going to pay off for her, because we see Elizabeth not being comfortable with it. We see Elaine, like, perking up like, hey, wow, Missy just does it like that. So, she's assumed a lot of risk for a reward that I'm not convinced is that big, because this is another thing. And in fact, like, we were going to talk about it a little later, but I guess I'm transitioning to it now. I don't know that showmances are as powerful as people like to make them out to be.
I don't think they are either, but I think power couples, just in a platonic sense, are dangerous. So I can see where they're coming from there.
But that's not where they're coming from, right? Like, nobody's sitting out there worried about, like the different, just two people getting along here. Like, nobody's like, we gotta break up Missy and Aaron, or, worried about maybe Elaine or Tom or anything like that. Or Elaine and Elizabeth, or Missy and Elizabeth. They're specifically worried about these two, at least as the story goes, and words that they'd said out of their mouth, because, there's a connection going on there. And and that's why it's an important distinction, because how it's happened in Survivor is you see two generally young and attractive, unattached people, although not always unattached if you watch South Pacific. And you're like, oh, we gotta bust that up. And, it's like this fear. And on one hand, I kind of get it. For one, if it's a sexual attraction thing, then that person is offering the other person something that you cannot, It's hard to say I can, be in a better alliance with this person than somebody they want to bone. So in that sense, I get it, but it's just like, why is that more powerful than romantic connections? Like, you bring up just power couples. Yeah, JT and Steven, or, Malcolm and Denise, or Dominic and Wendell. Like, those are far more powerful than any non-Romber, couple or showmance than you can, think of. But people aren't as willing to target those. And I wonder if it's just that easy, thing. It's like, Laurel can convince herself that she's closer to Wendell than Dom is, and who knows, maybe she even was. Whereas it's hard to convince yourself you're closer to Rob than Amber is.
I think it's just more obvious if it is a romance or a romantic connection, because if, platonic power couples, be it someone who's under the radar like Malcolm and Denise, or just very obvious like JT and Cochran, Steven, I don't know. I feel like you have that subtlety, that plausible deniability, whereas if you're cuddling up, it's like very obvious, like, no, we need to break you up. Like we saw it in Micronesia, you see it, even in All Stars, but they solved that problem. I don't know. It just seems like it's easier to perceive it if you are a showmance or a perceived showmance than you are if you're just like a duo.
Yeah. And I think it's the shadow of Romber, right? Rob and Amber. They ran that season, and nobody wants to fall victim to that. And it makes me almost wonder, like, what do people fear more? A Rob and Amber type situation, or a Parvati girl? Because it kind of seems like maybe it's both, it's just like,
both.
That's the thing.
We've seen that in this season.
Exactly, And then, of course, they always have to take out the woman. Is that because Amber won? Probably not. It's just because of rampant sexism that pervades our entire society. But it's like, even now, even in this episode, even in this scenario of a women's alliance, it lands on taking out the woman. That sucks.
Because it's pre-merge and men have muscles, and therefore they automatically win challenges, even though clearly the thing that's winning challenges this season are the puzzles, which Dean sucks at.
Which was pointed out. Like, he was being targeted because he was less than. That was, like, one of Aaron's central argument. But yeah, like, just kind of getting back to the idea of, like, people are overrating the threat level that a showmance says. And maybe they're not completely, because maybe a reason why a showmance hasn't been as successful since Rob and Amber is because no one's let them be. The same reason why we haven't had another Parvati is people sniff out Parvatis quickly, and it's like, I ain't letting that happen. They vote them out. But I just, like, I don't know if they're so dangerous you need needed to do it now is more my point. But like, who do you think is like the second most successful showmance in Survivor? And again, I'm talking like actual, like, people who were perceived to have a romantic connection by the people they were playing with. So, we can save the JT and Steven jokes. But yeah, who do you think was like second to them? Because it's like, I think it's a wide gap.
I mean, I just want to go back to your previous point for a second, because I think Rob and Amber were successful at this, not just because they were the first, but not to play up the theme of the season too much, but Rob is really good at persuading people. Yeah. He's really good at Survivor, and I think he was a key point in that relationship dominating that season. I mean, the dude realized he lost and then married her, so like they both won anyway. But as far as the second most successful showmance, I can't think of any in the game. Like, I can obviously think of people who met on Survivor and became, long-lasting couples or really famous or whatever, but I'm struggling to think of a, like, iconic romantic duo.
Oh, yeah. And I guess I should make sure I didn't maybe phrase the question right. I don't even mean, like, successful as, like, these, of the 14 years of marriage and, like, 100 kids, like Rob and Amber.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, we're successful at playing Survivor while being perceived as a showmance. And, like, my answer was, like, John and Jacqueline Mish.
But they were already
I know, that's the thing. Like, they were brought in as, we are a couple, announced to everybody that they are a couple in a season that was about intertwined relationships. But, like, yeah, that's it. That's, like, the next closest thing. And, look how that turned out. Now, one note I will say, they kind of did run the second half of that season. It's just nobody likes to remember it that way because we all have this vision that it was, Natalie Anderson, other than that she was really taking over in the final 2 episodes. Prior to that, it was like John Mish calling a lot of shots while Natalie was, wisely waiting for her opportunity. And the season kind of took form of his brilliant plans, including the one that they didn't really show on TV of, one of each pairing in the final 3. But yeah, like if John Mish is like, John and Jacqueline are second to Rob and Amber, that tells you that, like, I don't know if it's that the very idea of a showmance is so powerful that it's like, you gotta throw out all your other plans to break it up as soon as possible.
I mean, let's just be thankful to Natalie Anderson for saving us from the C-list Rob and Amber season.
I'm thankful for so many things. The show should bring her back sometime. I bet that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows? But yeah, it's like, and I think your point is very well. It's not, maybe it's less even about, 2 people, because it's like, oh, we got to break them up. 2 is so powerful. It's like, well, there's 3 of you talking right now. How is that more powerful than 2? Or less powerful than 2. Yeah, it could be that Rob and Amber were so powerful because one had Rob. Meanwhile, yeah, I don't know that Chelsea and Dean are going to be Rob and Amber. Dean is certainly no Rob, and I don't think Chelsea is a Rob either. So
no. I mean, I do feel bad for her. She's a super fan. She applied for, 12 seasons before getting on? But you should know better. Girl, whether it's a showmance or not, like, come on.
Yeah, she's insisting it's not, and, to a certain degree, I believe her. Frankly, part of it is people tend to push people together to meet a certain profile, and I believe they were the only 2, like, young, single, heterosexuals on that tribe, other than, like, if she had cuddled up to Aaron instead, but, so almost was just like, yep, I guess you guys are together.
I mean, Elaine was pushing that in the episode, so if she should be mad at someone, be mad at Elaine.
There you go. So Chelsea went home with an idol in her pocket, which I had no problem with. There's no way she should have predicted to play that idol because she shouldn't have been voted out. It makes no sense. There's no reason to anticipate because it shouldn't have happened. But where do you think it went wrong for her?
I mean, can we just take a minute to appreciate that in a season called Island of the Idols, no idol has been successfully played? Like, 2 people got voted out with them in their pocket. People are failing challenges. The one person who does have an idol, it expires, next week? So...
No, we've got another idol found this week, so there's 2 in the game now. Jamal has one, and then I think actually Kelly still has 2 more tribals to go because she negotiated up one.
Okay, Kelly is who I was thinking of, and I forgot about Jamal because I really wish Jamal didn't have an idol. I don't like him, but whatever. It is what it is.
Well, I mean... I don't know if you need to worry too much, as the point you were introducing is that having an idol doesn't necessarily mean security in this game.
Yeah, but he can work his way in. I feel like there's going to be, and we can get this in predictions, there's a lot of free agents, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm sorry, what was your question?
Where do you think it went wrong for Chelsea? Why her? What happened? What did she do poorly that ended in her demise?
I think she didn't check all of the boxes. She didn't, double check with everybody before they shipped off to Tribal, like, are we good? Are we good? I mean, maybe she did and they were lying to her, but it sounds like she just didn't have the deep connections that a lot of other people did, and maybe that's because she was the only single woman out there in an alliance of a bunch of, like players who have bonded over different areas, whether personally or as a fan. I don't know. I'm struggling to think of one reason, but that's the best I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly wasn't in the text, but I think we can extrapolate. If people who weren't comfortable voting out Dean said they're like, okay, fine, Chelsea, she must have done something wrong in forming connections that, at the very least, didn't stop them from going, no, we can't do Chelsea. And again, they might have still liked her plenty fine, and maybe, unlike Dean, there was also, well, I mean, Chelsea is kind of dangerous, so there's that, because that's how we play Survivor now. But yeah, other than that, yeah, it's hard to find fault because it was weird, man. It shouldn't have been her. But before we move on from this photo, there was just some people talking about it, and we briefly touched on it, about, like, Aaron. Each week, he seems to have, like, a different motivation or different target, although, when Vince goes home, obviously he needed a target after that. But, like, in that vote, he starts off the episode saying, it's going to be us guys, those girls are just going to take us out. And then, Vince goes to the island, it's like, let's vote out Vince. And then this week, it's like, let's vote out Dean. He sucks at challenges and all of that. Like, what do you make of all of his changing motivations from week to week?
I haven't really seen it. I don't know. I think the Vince thing was just anger over being blindsided with the Ronnie vote to start off with. This week, I think he was going back and forth, and again, I'm on board with the Dean vote, so I don't really see any issue there because he's not really the asset that people think he is, and I don't understand what everybody loves about Dean. Like, if someone wants to let me know, please DM me on Twitter. I don't get it, but I don't know. Aaron seems to be motivated by big moves and revenge, and that probably won't end well for him later on.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's that complicated. Why does he keep changing his reasons for getting voted out? What he wants is you not to vote out Aaron. And after that, he's just trying to find a reason to pin it on somebody else. So yeah, sure. If Vince isn't signed it next to you, you start talking about, hey, us guys, that'll be my first life raft. And then an opportunity goes, it's like, hey, how about Vince? Because if it's Vince, it's not you. Why is he willing to throw Dean overboard? Because again, if it's Dean, it's not you. And frankly, it's probably easier to push the women on the idea of voting out Dean than it is, all right, now it's time, ladies, to vote out one of your own. So yeah, I think it's self-preservation, and after that, the reasons he's giving are just the reasons he thinks will win him the vote. Now, interestingly about Aaron, despite losing the Ronnie vote, he has been picking targets, and people seem to be relatively okay with it in a way you would think you wouldn't. Like, you think, like, why does Aaron get to pick where, like, the votes are going? But they're kind of like, hey, that's fine. I mean, obviously they didn't go for Dean this time, but, like, Missy did. So it's like, yeah, usually, when you're the odd man out and you show the anger that Aaron did, that people would be a little more suspicious when the very next time there's somebody to vote on, he's like, hey, how about Vince? But they're letting him have it. Yeah, again, maybe
self-preservation is a great strategy, and I'm just shocked that he and Missy are as close as they are, considering that didn't go so well on day 4. But yeah, hey, more power to him.
I mean, she was willing to talk to him when other people weren't. It's just, why not roll your eyes when, he's still huffing and puffing over nothing? Especially, what we seem to be learning about Missy is that she is not very emotionally invested in the people out there. Obviously she got rid of Chelsea like it ain't no thing. And frankly, I think her biggest misstep of the episode, maybe perhaps aside from her target, your mileage may vary on that, is she didn't seem to be very tender with Karishma at Tribal Council. So, I don't think, Aaron getting all angry and all that is going to piss her off because she's probably used to dealing with crap like that. But at the same time, she's maybe not warming up to him. So I think that's probably what we saw, on day 4. And I think that's what we've seen since then. She's here to, play a game and to take people out. And maybe I wonder if she will have the emotional bonds necessary to further succeed.
We shall see.
One more person in that tribe we should probably talk about. Karishma sucks, right?
She's just, I don't want to say sucks because that just seems mean, but she's
I'll
just so
say it.
frustrating. She's just, she has that victim mentality, and I know some people like this. Like, if you're feeling left out, that obviously it's because it's your fault, or you're not the one to fit in. She just internalizes so much of it. I feel really bad for her, but also, like, do something to fix that. Like, be the arbiter of your own fate. Try to do something, because otherwise it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, everyone's gonna vote me out, or I suck at challenges, so I'm not gonna try to do anything else. Like, then go. Like, I don't understand why she's not trying harder if she really wants to be there, because she broke down when she thought she was gonna be voted out. So I don't, there's a disconnect there. And I think she's just circling the drain in her own head and can't escape that cycle of negative thoughts. And it sucks, but it's also not great TV to watch as a viewer.
Yeah, I feel like I had a little more empathy for her last week. I do think that there was probably just something weird going on when she cut herself and nobody responded, because that's just not how human beings react, especially not human beings knowing that they're being observed. They just had to have not noticed that she was, doubled over in pain. Last they knew, she was heading off to medical, and they're like, okay, cool, that's taking care of that. Yeah, I mean,
I understood that part.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably speaks to some level of, lack of care that nobody thought to go with her, although I don't know how those procedures work. If at a certain point somebody has to go off on their own to go to that tent, or just the very least that nobody noticed. So, there's something there. And I had some empathy for just the feeling that she had. That would have to suck. To feel like nobody cares if you live or die. Ouch, right? But this week, every time she was talking, I was just like, oh God, she sucks. And to the point where, like, she's quickly becoming one of my least favorite survivors ever, because I do not know. And, we have commenters and people that are really, smart about remembering the history of the show. So please feel free. Has anyone, whined and moaned their way to victory? Because it seems like a losing strategy to me. And it seems like it's all she's got. It's just, oh no, it sucks. There's nothing for me. It's like, try something. Try to get your way back in. You're still here, or you're not. Vince isn't. Yeah, it sucks to be the decoy, but less people voted for you than voted for him. Try something. People are starting to talk about other people. Why not try to be involved in those? But don't sit there and just say, undead woman walking, everybody wants me out, they don't care about me. It's just so defeatist in a way
and it wasn't a 5-4 vote. It was, she got 2 or 3 votes. Like, that's, you can easily come back from that. Like, even the best winners get voted against at some point. So I don't understand the whole woe is me and then chaos is a ladder. I'm just gonna come back from that. Like, you have plenty of opportunities before that, so don't throw in the towel.
Yeah, and that little moment didn't even come until like the end, where she's suddenly like hearing stuff like, "Oh wait, maybe they don't hate me so much." And it's just like, yeah, everything just seems like, man, this is not for you. And look, you don't know that something's not for you sometimes until you try it. I'm sure she, went into it with the best ideas, but yeah, she is just all up in her feelings, and it is not a good look. And I want her gone, and I don't think she's going anywhere.
That's the frustrating part. That reminds me about Tribal Council. That, going back to Missy, that was not a good look when she shot down Karishma there.
One theory I have is just that, like, Missy was trying to, shut her up because they didn't want to tip off Chelsea. Because it was very like...
She's clearly a vulnerable person, though. She's not going to take that in stride.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, no, I think it was a bad idea, and I think it speaks poorly of Missy's people skills, which are very necessary, But I can almost see, like, that's what she thought she was doing, in part because of the way she put it out, like, oh, don't feel feeling too secure, because she didn't want, the supposed, the target to, like, start broadcasting that she wasn't. But it's like, yeah, For one, I don't think you need to say anything. What Karishma said was just what you would say. And, like, Chelsea was also, talking in the tears like, oh, it's going to be a blindside. So clearly Chelsea is at least pretending around the idea that it's not as obvious as, Chelsea believes it to be that they're voting out Karishma. So there's no reason why Karishma shouldn't respond in a, hey, maybe it's not me. And I think that was a bad look for Missy. And I think maybe telling of what might be her downfall later on.
And I get that Karishma came into this as older and married and the first Indian contestant, and she's, minorities never seem to do well in the early days, but that's not what's happening with this season. Like, the older people are there, the minorities are mostly there, so I don't know why that weighs on her as much as far as the game goes. I get it personally, like, totally, but as far as the game, that's not another reason to, to shirk back and just give up and kind of wallflower in camp.
Yeah, it feels like she never recalibrated to what the season was. She came in understanding what her major obstacles would be, but it's like, those obstacles aren't there. And I do want to note that, like, not white isn't a racial group or community, and also not, even especially when you try to put in all these not white, not straight people. That again, that shows diversity, and it shows that it's you can't be targeted for not being white or straight or whatever. But it doesn't mean that, like, an Indian person will be able to relate well to, like, a redneck lesbian or, black people. Like, these are different communities, so I understand she could still feel isolated in that group. But from, like, the Survivor, typical way of, hey, for some reason I just seem to get along with all these other white faces, that wasn't as much in play here. She had room to work with, and as evidence, I would suggest the fact that she's still there would be one of them, and she never seems to recalibrate to what her initial fears were. And I want to say on that note, like, it's not unusual. So many times has it happened in Survivor that, like, whatever insecurities you've been carrying with you since high school or whatever, Survivor has a great way of bringing them out of you. And, I mean, part of it is I'm sure casting doesn't mind people who have obvious insecurities that they can bring out of you. Like, I don't think they need to talk to Noura very long to know what they were getting out of her. But I feel like she's an extra special case of that, and it's not fun to watch. It's just like, I can't even sympathize anymore.
Do you want to talk about Noura?
Before we do that, it is notable that, 3 weeks ago, everybody was in formation and be like, yeah, women's alliances, we're finally going to go all the way. And now they voted out Chelsea instead of Dean. And it does not look good for the women's alliance this season, especially since, like, the other person that they're could take or leave at any time is also a member of that, in Karishma. So I was just wondering, and maybe we're not the right people to tackle this, but we're here this week, of why do you think women's alliances have such trouble sticking together?
Because the men like to take control and vote them out.
That certainly doesn't help.
I mean, there's interpersonal issues with some of the women's alliances over the years, but the reason why they don't stick together is the men get freaked out because they've all watched, Micronesia, and they're like, oh God, we can't let that happen again. It's the same issue as the Robin Amber showmance thing. One person did it, and now no one can ever do that ever again.
And I certainly think that's why, like, it's hard to get one going when you are already in the minority. But, like, they had the numbers, right? Like, it required women to break up this women's alliance, and I believe that's happened other times, maybe as recently as 2 seasons ago, the Angelina season. I'd say that one failed because Angelina needed to be part of it, and they were like, but I think ultimately it's just because Survivor is not a group game. And, us watching at home can be all like, yeah, I want a women's alliance to succeed. I want to see women succeed. I'm tired of seeing the opposite in this game. And a group of women getting together and running things would be so satisfying, and that would fulfill my wants, because out of that will spin a woman victor. But when you're playing, you're not there to, advance the sisterhood. You're there to advance yourself. And if that alliance isn't going to help you do that, you can't succeed your goal of wanting to advance yourself in order to strike a blow for feminism. And I think that's where the disconnect comes. We're watching, we actually, especially early on, a lot of people might not care which of the 5 women, or at least, maybe there might be a couple they don't want, but it's like, as long as one of them succeeds, I'm okay. But that's not going to help you if you're Missy, right? Or whoever, right? You're not there to, win for social causes. You're there to win money. And I will say, that's the only way to play. Trying to, use Survivor to advance your platform is a bad way of doing it, because this isn't real life. This is a competition. This is a single victor, steady elimination contest. It's not a rising tides raises all boats situation. It's winner take all.
It's the same thing with presidential races. Like, you're there to win for you, and any single issue social candidates, like, that's great, but that's not going to win you the final round.
Yeah. So I think I think women's alliances, if you're a woman, are very useful in certain parts of the game. I very much approve of how they're like, we don't need to just let them vote one of us out first. Well, if we band together and our will is stronger than theirs, we don't need to be the first target. But the game has evolved. They've gotten to know each other well, and they've decided, I think rightly, that my own personal game will advance better if I pair up with this person who maybe I, personally relate to, more, even though he has a penis. Or even that it's like, even less, maybe not even relating, but it's like this person provides traits that I require to move on more than, say, Karishma does. And I think, so I think situationally, and then you get to the end of the game, it might make sense again to have some kind of women's alliance because, the perception that juries favor men over women. I say perception not because I don't believe it. It's just I need people to point out to some recent examples of where a very qualified female finalist lost to an underqualified male finalist because you feel like the jury wasn't going to vote for her. And I swear to God, you can leave it with the Chrissy talk. I don't need to hear that. I don't believe you. But yeah,
is it bad that I didn't even think of that option?
It's not bad at all. I've had some time to think about this. This is not top of my head, the thought. But yeah, I think that's why. It's like, advancing women doesn't you. And for people like, no, well, if I was on Survivor, I would care about advancing women. I would care about the social causes. You would lose. Most likely you will lose. And that's a bad way of playing Survivor. And we know this when it's a cause we don't care for. When the guy gets on there and it's like, I'm going to show people that you can be a good Christian and win Survivor, we roll our eyes and say, good luck, buddy. But if they were going to be like, I'm going to come on Survivor and advance the cause of minorities, we're like, yeah, you should do that. It's like, no, it's the same deal. Survivor isn't that. Survivor is a competition where you need to eliminate somebody every 1 to 3 days until you're the last person. You can't really focus on anything but that part of it because that's what the game requires.
And you need to be adaptable because that's what's ultimately going to get you to the end. Like, you can try to advance your pet causes as much as possible, but if you're not adaptable, you're going to go quick. And I think that's the best way to go.
Yeah, and I think that it's where you see. So yeah, they have the idea of women's alliance. I think it served them really well to avoid the typical voting patterns early. But then they're like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to do better with, say Aaron or Tom on my side than I would with Karishma or, I guess in this case, Chelsea. And you have to respect that, especially because they'll have acquired more data than when they made that women's alliance 2 to 3 days in. So I think that's it. And, the flip side is there have been 0 successful male alliances in the history of Survivor. Like, there's one for women, right? And even there, like, how successful was that women's alliance for, say, Natalie Bolton? Natalie Bolton might have been better off forming a fans alliance versus instead of teaming up with the favorite women. But obviously it worked out for both the winner and I'd say the finalists. But like male alliances, you got like the 3 Amigos and the 4 Horsemen. Like, it's looking grim. So ultimately, yeah, the best alliances are the ones that will work best for you. And then it's like, which traits do I work out well? Who can I trust and have shared values and traits with? Who sucks and thus I can carry along with me? Who can be my shield? And those things might not divide neatly on gender lines. So that's what I think. Certainly. Please tell me why I'm right in the comments below. Let's move on to the fun stuff.
Here we go.
Oh my god. Noura going to the Island of the Idols alone, no matter what else happens this season, justifies the presence of the Island of the Idols.
I didn't even need a blindside. I was already going to put this as my top episode of the season. Like, I can't stand her, but this was brilliant.
Yes. I'm so glad she didn't go home.
If they lost the no, I wanted her to go to home because I wanted this to rival like a Chris Noble.
Oh no, I don't like now. It would have been fine. I'm saying I'm glad she didn't go home when Molly, who was previously my favorite contestant of the season, I was in mourning when she went. Now I'm like, oh, thank God Noura was around for this moment.
No, this was brilliant and it's amazing from start to finish. Like she volunteered to go. She doesn't know who these people are. She's like, yeah, cool, whatever. Like, give me some watermelon and tell me what to do. Oh, you're famous. Yeah, I definitely knew who you were. And then, what did you think of the challenge or the task itself? Before we get into the rest of it.
I mean, it's something, convince people to let you do something is something. It's fine as a challenge. It's a really tough one to execute because here's the thing that everybody coming from the island has to deal with. Your first order of business is to convince people that nothing great happened to you on the island. And that makes every other order of business a little bit tougher, including this one. But yeah, as a task, it's whatever. It's fine. For what it ends up setting up, it's so great.
Sandra on the island, but these missions are getting diminishing returns for me, and I don't know how it's going to play out after the merge, and well, I guess we'll see how it goes, but it's just a weird...
Yeah, no, the little bits, at least it's different bits, at least it's not, Rob whomping people in fire challenges every week, but ultimately, yeah, what we really need is, them coming, talking to Rob and Sandra for a bit, and then be on their way. But I guess, having a mission, if she hadn't had a mission, it wouldn't have been anywhere near as funny, because...
Right.
Oh my god, I don't know if there's a more perfect moment in the history of Survivor in that Noura's whole mission is to get her tribe to agree to putting her as the caller, and then it turns out they all agree to sit her out. It's so amazing. It's so perfect.
That was just the icing on the cake. This whole time, she's doing her thing, and it's really not convincing them, which, okay, it started off as a decent lie, and then it just went downhill from there. She's trying to explain, oh, no, you have to make me the person before I explain what it is. What?
Yeah, how?
What?
How do we agree to something we don't know? And then, even there, it's okay if it would work, but then it's okay, now that you have, it's a challenge. Where you're all blindfolded. Oh, it's a blindfolded challenge. You're the caller. Okay.
And then she didn't understand how the blindfold challenge worked.
No, because she doesn't know shit about Survivor.
And Dan was just no, go behind me. And then she goes 2 paces there. Every little social interaction was gold, and somebody make gifs of all of these, please.
But then the greatest part. It's okay, my whole advantage. You guys are ready for this. And they're all like, yeah, it's that challenge. They do it every year. Okay. Where's our advantage? I mean, I guess it's cool that we can practice, but I don't understand what we just gained there by giving you this. I don't understand why they'd send you to an island to be like, all right, you gotta convince people you're a caller, and your reward is you can tell them that you're a caller. It's just that's not a reward. Instantly, as soon as that happened, they're like, that wasn't what it was. This isn't a real thing.
And very clearly, if she had to be the caller, Jeff would have called them out on this, at the challenge. So it never would have worked in the first place, and I love it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's okay, so you told us that. Now we know, how do you hold us to that? Where's the commitment? We just say, no, okay, we know what we need to know. We can't unknow it. It's not jury, disregard what you just heard. It's okay, we know it's that's a challenge. It has to be, you'll open this vial and you'll get to find out what it is. Or we'll give you an advantage during the challenge if once in the challenge you're doing this. But it's just I mean, you probably didn't even to tell us that. We're cool. Like, that's nothing. That's a nothing thing. And the way she thought this was so great, and that's what she lashed on. Like, this is going to be my power of persuasion. Of course that's what she's lashed on, because she wasn't listening to Rob and Sandra.
I don't even know what to say. Like, it defies explanation how she thought this was going to work. And I'm really curious what she and Kelly talked about, because Kelly knows what's up.
Yeah. I would love it if they didn't, because Noura forgot that Kelly went. It was just, because when Noura was going there and telling her whole story, Kelly, who had been previously nervous, you could kind of sit her in there and laughing like, oh, I'm so fine. Nobody's gonna even talk about this. All they're gonna be like is, what the hell, Noura? What the hell? And yeah, no, it leads to the brilliant practice session when she is horrible and everybody's like, oh my god, what are we gonna do? And then, oh my god, the moment at the challenge where Lauren just pipes up and is like, Lauren. Or Noura. It's Noura. And Noura isn't even listening at first. She's probably still in her head like, ha ha ha, I just won this reward. Wait, what? Me? Like, yeah.
I mean, she probably thought they were voting for a caller right there. So she's like, oh, wait. That's bad.
I'm sitting out. And yeah, and bravo to Lauren, because I'll be like, I don't think I'd have the stones to just be in the middle there and just call somebody out and just say it. No, it's you. Like, I'm Canadian, man. We are not raised to be that, bold and outward with, stuff. We have to passively aggressively insult people, unless I'm on a microphone or tweeting, apparently. No, it was so amazing. And here's the other thing. What she gets for doing this is nothing. That's a nothing reward.
Negative nothing. She doesn't have a vote anymore.
I know, but even if she had done it, the way she's like, yep, oh, awesome, I'm doing it for an advantage. Blocking a vote is nothing. That's not a big advantage. Honestly, the response is even if you think you could convince everybody to do it, it's just not worth the trouble. It's unlikely I'm going to be in a scenario, and I'm going to know I'm in a scenario where one vote's going to carry the day. I'm not. To the best of her knowledge, she's not in that situation now. So it's and if one vote is that important, I want it to be mine. I need mine. Because what's important to note is that all was being offered to her is the ability to block somebody else's vote. The word block was said. It's not even a steal. Noura isn't even gaining a vote.
On my resume, I would put voted out 7-1 versus voted out 8-1. So that's the silver lining.
Yeah, for me, it don't matter. If your second place is the first loser, blah, blah, blah. And I think Rob started low to give her the opportunity to move it up to steal a vote that's good for however many days. But no, she's like, yep, I'm doing it.
And he cracked.
Oh,
and she was like, yes. He's like, are you serious? Really?
Yeah, no, it's in some ways I want her to go back, but in other ways I want to preserve this perfect moment. I don't know if there could be a good Noura sequel, but maybe she goes back and just starts railing on Robin Sanders like, you guys screwed me. That was worthless. How did you blah 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 blah? No, Noura justified her presence. Island of the Idols justified their presence. It was so great. I love Survivor.
Oh, I think if she went back, that Sandra would fuck with her so much.
That's the other thing, that.
They clearly don't like her, so why wouldn't you just, ruin whatever the producers want you to do? Just completely screw the pooch, make the reward, you get a coconut or a blanket,
2 watermelons. Yeah, no, I want them to just be I want secret scenes. If there are people, let us know. Put it into our, our ether that there's an extra extended cut of Rob and Sandra just riffing on the weirdo that they just met. Because there's a bit of it, obviously, in the edit of the episode. I want more. I think that's a bit about it for this episode, huh? You got anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that was the big stuff.
Yeah, you clearly don't want to talk about Jamal finding an idol so much that you can't remember it happened. Just to be clear.
Hey, I referenced it earlier.
He found a real idol.
And it is an idol. We saw the rules.
Yeah, Mark brought screenshots of it and everything. A real till Final 5 idol, the idol of the Vokai tribe, is Jamal's.
And an idol that doesn't expire. Well, at least anytime soon.
So now it's time for the gimmick for this season. You and I are playing the role of Rob and Sandra, and we will advise people, just like they do, We should maybe come up with challenges to really continue the bit. We'll give people some advice, but now like send them homework. It's like you need to get more likes on a tweet than this person, or you lose your ability to comment next week or something. I don't know. We'll workshop it. All right. We'll kick off. All right. I'll start off with the first one. First question for advice is, Dear Giant Purple Heads. Mine is actually wood, the way that, it should be. And unlike Rob, I think people can recognize it as me. I love that. That was the other part. Noura had no idea who that guy was. Now, obviously, in part because she didn't even know who either of them is. But I want everybody who goes to Island Idols to be like, who's that? Oh, look, it's Sandra. Because it doesn't look like Rob. It looks like a guy. It could be me.
It's a very handsome man, obviously.
All right. I am having issues with my current roommate. I am an older grad student living off-campus student apartment. My roommate this semester is a freshman who has never lived away from home. He is a nice kid, but I'm having some cleanliness issues. He likes to cook, using the kitchen on an almost daily basis. What a weird freshman in that regard. But never cleans up afterwards. He leaves dishes in the sink for days on end, doesn't wipe off countertops, and leaves his garbage to accumulate. He will only tend to these dishes when I directly ask him to clean them up, which I have done around 4 times and am getting tired of. Do you have any advice for how I can get him to start cleaning up properly? This is from Unclean in Kalamazoo. I'll just go real quick, and then I'm going to throw it to you. Is that I never lived in dorms. That's not really a big thing here in Canada. It certainly happens. We have universities, they have housing. But unlike in America, it's not as common to go away for post-secondary education in Canada. And that's just as simple that most of our universities are in the major centers as opposed to, college towns like you have. We certainly have some college towns, especially more in central Canada. But yeah, most of them are in the major cities. And that's also where most people in Canada live. Like, I think like 80% of our population are in our like 10 metropolitan centers. So yeah, I didn't live in campus housing or even like something off campus, but I did have roommates, so I do have some experience. But how about yourself? Did you have like messy roommates and stuff when you were away in school?
So I was in the dorms all 4 years, but my first dorm, we didn't have a kitchen. And my second dorm, the guy only ate like frozen pizzas and chicken nuggets, so there weren't any dishes to clean up. So I lucked out there. I'm glad we're not doing a video podcast because this entire question is making me cringe and twitch, and my OCD is like flaring really bad right now. So I've had a couple of messy roommates just, in general life. And, this is really tough because my advice for my worst roommate was to just not re-sign our lease. But I would start off maybe passively aggressively doing it, but that's just me. But seriously, talk to the guy, open communication is key, and maybe try to find a happy middle ground. I don't know if there is a middle ground in this scenario because it seems really bad, but if you can't do anything, move. Like, I don't know if you just started and you've got till May to go, but if you have a way to drop out at mid-semester at Christmas and do something else in January, please take it.
Yeah, so I think, this sucks, obviously, and you have all of our sympathy. I imagine the sympathy of everyone listening, unless somebody listening is a messy person like, well, what's the big deal? Dishes eventually get cleaned, don't they? This is your roommate's first experience from being away from home, and sadly, for many of us, this is how you learn the adulting. This is how you learn that, you have to do some stuff for yourself. Obviously, hopefully, some of us learned when we were still living at home. Like, we had parents that, instilled in us that things don't clean themselves. But that's not true of everyone. And that's why stories like this persist. And thus, even though you're older and probably feeling like you're too old to deal with this shit, sadly, it is upon you, due to the cruelties of fate, to be one of the people that whips this young fucker into shape. And I think the way you do that, as Mark says, you try to actually talk to him. I'm thinking they might have already tried that. Is sadly, even though you think this is dumb and you don't want to do it, you're going to have to do the passive-aggressive stuff that we all tried and done, or maybe had done to us or heard about. You're going to have to take his dishes and put them in his room, and you're going to have to, leave the notes and, the job, boards on there. And the other advantage you have that other people who probably had to deal with this in the past is you're so much older than this kid. Use that. This kid is not like probably 1 year out of high school, unless, obviously I don't know if there was a gap or whatever. And you are not. He probably still has that idea of, older people have authority to me. Fear can work. Just be like, listen, fucker, you better start cleaning up, and implied violence, implied kicking out, implied something to his stuff. But make it clear that you're not his parents, and he has to share this space, and that's what being out of the home means. And I'm sure the guy's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I totally will. And if he doesn't do it, that's when things start showing up in his bedroom and that sort of thing. Now, what will suck, obviously, is if you also need to use those dishes. In which case, if it could persist, maybe you need 2 sets. And he's like, you're not touching my colander or whatever. So, and again, I wish it wasn't you that had to do it, but this is how people learn, and that's basically one of the few benefits of the early roommate situation of the young adulthood. Obviously, the big benefit is you can't afford to do it on your own. But the other one is you start to learn what it's like to be with other people in a shared living space that aren't related to you. Let's move on to the next one. How about you read this one? You got it?
Sure. Hello, Survivor Idols. In this week's episode, there was a conversation about blindside letters. If you were to blindside other members of the PRP staff and vote them out, what would you write to them? Sincerely, Carter fan.
All right, really quickly, this isn't really an advice question. So everybody, we're going to do this, and we put it in here because I think it's good, fun discussion. We'll do that. But, remember, this is advice, not just opinions or questions. So, flip it and be like, I have to write a blindside letter. What should I do? Anyway, what did you come up with, Mark?
I was just trying to think what I would write to every individual person, and I don't know. If I were to blindside you, I would just not have you talk, and then just vote you out silently, and you would hate that because you would want to say something to me, and you'd be gone. As far as writing a little blindside letter to everybody else, there's so many inside jokes I could use here, but sorry about it. It's just a game, nothing personal. Bye. I need this more than you do, John.
That's true for all of us. It's true. That guy. For me, same one for everybody. I don't even need to personalize it, but it depends on when I'm voting them out. There's 2 situations, right? So if I'm blindsiding them and they're going to the jury, if it's you, if it's, Brad, if it's whoever, then it's like, oh God, that's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I only did this because I knew you were such a strong competitor, and this is what I needed for my game and to put food on my family's table. And if I hadn't done it, then I think we both know that you would have won, yada, yada, yada. If you're not on the jury, pre-merge, really simple. It would start off capital letters, fucking finally, eat shit loser, signed Purple Rock Andy. So, one of 2 ways.
I'm such a schmuck because that would have totally worked on me.
See? Now, the good news is none of us are making the merge, so it's not really something we need to worry about.
I don't think I'm making the show.
For all of us, although apparently I can apply now. I just need to have played in the NHL or, rode a horse going after, villains as Dudley Do Right.
That's everybody up there, right?
Every other person. I mean, literally, my boss's name is Gord, and I descend from fur trappers. So as much as I'd like to insult the Canadian stereotypes, some of them are true. All right, the final one. I think this one actually got a week ago, but, it still applies. All right. I want my son, age 4, to be more like me, but he doesn't seem to be interested in anything nerdy and only likes fast cars and fast women. How do I get him into comic books and Star Trek? Sincerely, Sad Dad and Sausalito. What do you got, Mark?
I have a good one for this. First of all, you tell him that The Flash is fast, and he can start reading that comic book. So is whatever ship they use in Star Trek. I'm sorry, I'm a Star Wars person. And fast women, there's a lot of bucks and babes in comic books. So hey, play to their strengths.
Yeah, similarly, you gotta put 2 good things together. Your chocolate and your peanut butter. So and that can be a nice transition. So if you like Star Trek and nerdy stuff, and he is so much cooler than you at age 4. The Star Trek reboot opens with James T. Kirk joyriding a sports car, right? That's what you got to do. You got to watch that. I think he hooks up with a green naked chick. So there you go. That's how you do it. Now you might ask yourself, is this appropriate for age 4? Yeah, 4-year-old is what they often call those 8 people at age 4. Who cares, man? This is desperate times, man. You can only watch, talking cars for so long before you want to blow your brains out. So if you want to do that, mainline some PG-13 entertainment and, will it have effects when he's older? Yeah, maybe. He'll just be a cool nerd. Like, I can't see any other downside to him watching movies of, cool captains, joyriding and having casual sex and shooting aliens. So that's what I'm saying. You can start him with the new one, and then actually just that one, because the later ones probably suck. Like, I did not like the second Star Trek movie, and I don't believe I even saw the third one in the reboots. But as a Star Trek fan, you would know better than me that the level of quality is quite variable in those movies. All right, that's all we have for advice for this week. Send in those questions. Next week, I believe it is back to the people in the theme song, myself and John. But we say that now, and then one of us will drop out, and we'll have to find somebody. So let's predict what's going to happen next week. And the first thing that we know for sure is the swap is coming. So with that in mind, we're only picking one person. Who do you got?
This is hard because it could be literally anybody, but as much as it really, really pains me to say this because she's dope, I'm just going to go for the fences and say Missy. I think she pisses off enough people and gets on a tribe with the wrong combination of these free agents and may kind of get screwed over because she stuck her hat out a little bit too much. She's featured way too much in this episode to not have that come down one way or the other pretty soon. And I'm just going to say it's more big moves TM.
That certainly makes sense. It would also go along with my thinking that it probably wasn't the wisest move. And what I root for most in this is things that make me look smart. The outcomes for the people playing there, I don't really care that much. But what I hope most for in the swap is for Karishma and Noura to swap onto the same tribe, and then both of them flip on their previous tribe. It would be like one of those scenarios where two people flip in a tie. Like, that's what I want to happen, is Karishma would be like, these people don't like me, and go over there, and Noura to do the same, and then the net effect is 0. That would be amazing. But ultimately,
it's like a mirror universe chaos cast.
Ultimately, even though, you get a bit of it in the next time in Survivor of her talking about it, you got a little bit in this episode of why, Elaine says we shouldn't we should get rid of her because, the swap is coming, that Karishma's going to flip. I don't think Karishma's actually going to flip. And the reason why is because that would require way too much resolve and agency. Two things that I have, no reason to believe that Karishma is, capable of. Prove me wrong. We'll find out. So that kind of opens it up if I'm not longer thinking that it will be, say, Vokai members who end up on a tribe with Noura or Lyra members that end up on a tribe with Karishma or whatever. And instead, I'm just going to kind of go with the theme of the season, which is, who the hell knows? Probably not somebody we're thinking of. And I'm going to say Janet, because I don't think there's any reason why it should be her. Just like I didn't think there was any reason it should be Chelsea. Just like I didn't think it would be any reason there should be Molly. I'm going to say Janet, and that would suck because I think she's actually one of my favorites this season. But why not go bold with the way things are going and the fact that how do you know until you know what the tribe breakdown is?
2019, nothing
That's
matters
right.
anymore. That's the theme song.
No, the theme song is "Welcome to the Purple." I won't sing it. Sorry, I was told not to do that anymore. I think that's all we got for this week. Where could they find you on Twitter, Mark?
I am at Purple Rock Mark.
Yeah, the show is at Purple Rock Pod. I am at Purple Rock Andy. The website, which features much of your hard work in the design standpoint, is purplerockpodcast.com. You can subscribe very many places, including YouTube, where some of you are listening to this right now, but not watching, I would hope, because you've been seeing the same thing for about an hour now. But if you're there, you will not hear us play some theme music. If you're listening on your podcatcher, I'm about to play something right now.